Part of what he says is true. I was born the day that Babe Ruth died, and I did at one point think that there was a certain cosmic symmetry. Unfortunately, I couldn't hit a curveball. And Valerie's right. I mean, I'm pleased that everybody's happy here today. You're not in a campaign rally in Ohio and Florida and Illinois. And she gave about 2/3 of what I wanted to say this morning and probably said it more succinctly and better, and I appreciate that. Because this is the first time in a decade that we've been having prayer sessions like this, that we aren't faced with the uncertainty of short-term extensions and frustrations. But make no mistake, we are still in an era of uncertainty. Funding is inadequate for our needs and still is unsustainable. In less than 5 years, we will be back facing an even larger gap, having struggled to make the most out of this modest increase in 5 years of stability. And we'll have more needs, and it's likely that we will have a less attractive financing climate. But transit continues to become ever more important. And it's obvious in the communities that are thriving and sort of have their act together, transit is more important than ever. For economic development, for dealing with all of our carbon pollution problems, to attract the well-educated millennials that so many communities are banking on for their future. Now, what you're doing today is the time to start fixing this unacceptable situation that we're in. As you fan out on Capitol Hill with you and your teammates, staff and members need to know in pretty graphic terms where you're at, what you need, what you can do. Not that you're not appreciative, that we somehow drugged this thing across the finish line and got the reauthorization. I mean, given what's been going on around here, that's a significant accomplishment. And in some respects, it makes your job a little easier. People need to know about the gap that you're going to be facing over the course of these next 5 years. What inadequate funding really means. And letting people know where you're going to be for the next reauthorization. It is never too soon to lay down the markers. I'm excited that part of the FAST Act included at least 2 pilot projects to extend what we've been doing in Oregon with alternative funding mechanisms. We have shattered the relationship between gallons of fuel consumed and road user benefits. With electric cars, hybrids, plug-in hybrids, hyper-efficient diesel, we're in a situation now where we need a much different system. We think the 10-year road user pilot project iteration we've gone through in Oregon is part of that answer. Those of you from California are engaged in a similar effort along that line. And the pilot projects under the reauthorization to deal with new technology and new approaches are an essential part of this. We have to replace the reliance on the fuel tax. My personal agenda has been, for the better part of a decade, to raise the gas tax, to index the gas tax, and replace the the gas tax with the road user charge. It is the only way that we're going to be able to tie together the pieces and not be having sort of this hand-to-hand combat trying to prop up fuel tax that simply is going to become less and less sustainable over time. And the new tools that we will use to be able to keep track of how far people go. Notice I said how far, not where they go, but how far they go. That same technological platform is going to be able to help you transform the transportation experience for Americans all across the country. Because not only will we pay for road use in a sustainable and equitable fashion, that platform will take existing technologies, weave them together, so that all drivers will be able to get real-time traffic information. That same payment function will enable them to pay seamlessly, not just for road tolls or to find where the nearest parking space is and pay for it, but for transit and bike share and car share and Amtrak. There will be, within the next decade, if we play our cards right, a universal system to be able to make the transportation system seamless. And a number of you are going down that path. Think about the applications metropolitan-wide, statewide, nationally. And at the same time, there's an opportunity for us to inject into the system road equity and a modest congestion pricing component. As you know, the biggest area of expenditure in most communities is dealing with congestion. It's expensive. Being able to make a modest adjustment to that funding mechanism to send a price signal that everybody shouldn't drive to work at 8:30 in the morning will modify behavior slightly, and to the extent that it doesn't, will generate more money to deal with congestion. And we will be able to make some adjustments on a statewide basis to maybe lower some of the costs in rural and small town America, where they aren't facing a significant congestion premium. And by the way, it will make it more acceptable for us to be able to have a system that works better for you in crowded metropolitan areas. We're beginning a critical 3-year period. I'm sorry, the election is not over. Trust me, I want it to be over every bit as much as you. But we need to take advantage of this year to be able to inject, even in this poisonous, toxic political climate, some things that politicians can talk about that make a difference. You have things that they should be talking about. And ironically, dealing with rebuilding and renewing America is still one of those things that brings most people together. It's not partisan. My legislation on the gas tax had APTA, thank you very much, but also the AFL-CIO, unions across the board, truckers and AAA, contractors. I mean, it is the broadest array of political interest groups for any issue on Capitol Hill. And they're still there for a rational approach to rebuild and renew this country. Surface transportation, water, sewer. All the politicians are talking about strengthening the middle class. What faster way to create millions of family wage jobs from coast to coast than rebuilding and renewing damaged, fraying, dangerous infrastructure. And we need, at every turn, to try and inject this into the discussion this year. This is the year when the table is being set. In November, there will probably be a result. I have my preferences. I would like my team to be in charge. I think it would go easier on you and better for the country. But we'll have a result, and we need to be prepared to move forward. And those next 2 years after that are this golden period when we've got a new administration, some new energy, opportunities for changes, and not everybody is running for president. That will come in year 3. We need to be prepared to take advantage of this period now to give people something to talk about, what difference it makes to you and the people you serve, and then being able to help a new administration. And I will almost guarantee you it will be a better Congress. How much better, I don't know, but I think it's going to be better. How do we use it? One of the things that I hope to have your help preparing for the next reauthorization and helping the new administration to be able to have the most impact, we need to help them scrub the federal process. Now, I say this with affection. Some of my best friends are bureaucrats. I've worked with every Secretary of Transportation back to the Reagan administration, every FTA administrator. I've come to regard a number of people in those organizations as friends, and I admire their professionalism. But they have a structure that they're operating under that doesn't work very well anymore. It breaks my heart to have people tell me that they don't think they can afford to use the small starts provisions that I'd crafted a couple of reauthorizations, because they can't afford to accept a $30 million federal grant. We need to do a very deep dive to be able to give the next administration some suggestions to brush away elements that don't add value, elements that create unnecessary friction, that take time and cost money. We can't afford. Now, I can make the same representations, and frankly, I have with other groups in other settings, because we need to recalibrate other areas of federal partnership. It's not that we're going to be involved with devolution. I'm sorry. We continue to need a federal role, federal resources, particularly for things that are regional, bi-state, multi-year. But we need to right-size it. We need to be smart about it. This does not mean undercutting environmental protections. I bleed green. But can we make it more performance-based? Can we be transparent and inclusive, but streamline and smooth it along? Can we get rid of a little bit of some of the oversight that you have on some of the projects? Now, I like to think we had the first light rail program in Portland. I don't really count that Tijuana trolley. But you know, in those first years, in the 80s, early 90s, these were matters of first impression. And communities didn't have the experience. And the Reagan administration would rather study than fund. There were things going on. But that was then. This is now. You have assembled some of the finest teams of consultants, engineers, contractors. You know what to do. Is there a way we can take more advantage of that and squeeze more value out of the process? And every dollar, whether it comes from the federal, state, local, or innovative partnerships with the private sector. I would deeply appreciate every one of you, cities that I may have visited or people who have groused on occasion. It just doesn't have to be this hard. I would deeply appreciate some specific recommendations of what you think would make a difference. I think we ought to assemble the examples of where we can do better. And make that not just a part of the next reauthorization. Make it part of the conversation we have with a new administration and a better Congress. Because I think this is part of how we're going to break the stupid cycle of yelling and insults and doing things that are beside the point. Let's get specific. Let's make our ability to perform, let's enhance it. Let's provide some results. That's going to help us at the federal level, the state, and the local level. I appreciate your courtesy this morning in allowing me to vent. I'm wearing my gold tie because I think we ought to be going for the gold. We ought to celebrate a modest success and put down a marker for the next reauthorization, the next Congress, the next administration that will be worthy of the support that you need for the critical work that you do. Thank you very much. I guess we're tap dancing for Senator Brown. So Rob said if you had a comment that I could take back, that you could do that, or if there was a question. What? You're a plant?
Thank you.
What, these people are comatose?
No. I just...
Your dues money at work, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, and who are you and what do you do?
My name is Rob Healy.
Yes.
I work for the American Public Transportation Association, and we want to thank you for all of your hard work over all the years, and you know I say that with great sincerity, honestly. So anyway...
People who are sincere don't have to tell you that they're sincere, are they? Honestly.
Good point.
This makes me very nervous, Rob. Where is this going?
Well, I was going to ask to borrow money, but no.
He started the morning asking me if I knew my transit manager. Do you know Neil McFarland?
I'm trying to be thorough. Anyway.
Like a hand grenade in a
yes,
bowl of oatmeal.
Yeah.
Okay, you're being subtle. What's up?
So thorough, not subtle. I'm never subtle. So we work very hard for the gas tax, and I just, in terms of as we move forward, you know, we're all reflecting on how we can do this better, how we can get a sustainable funding mechanism for the trust fund, and certainly, and I really personally I feel that the gas tax. I feel the gas tax is the most efficient mechanism. I do think VMT is going back up a bit, et cetera. So, but it's been very hard politically, and we talk about VMT. Certainly, it has some benefits. The administration has the per barrel tax. I mean, do you have strong sentiments about how we would raise the money, or do you think we need to be just more flexible about it? Is there benefit to us being more specific on what we'd like to see?
I think there's huge benefit for you being very specific about what you want to see. It's a myth that the gas tax is a non-starter politically.
Thank you.
It was a non-starter with a few people on Capitol Hill. One, sadly, was the president that I supported. who just wasn't going to raise taxes. I can still remember in the debate with John McCain, when he said it, I almost threw a shoe at the television. Not going to raise taxes on anybody who makes under $250,000 a year. Well, he carried that over to the gas tax, except when he didn't. You know, a barrel tax, excuse me, is going to translate into 25 cents a gallon. They've sort of gotten over that. I had a great exchange with Jack Lew, wondering why you're going to take on the petroleum industry, raise it with a barrel tax when you just don't raise the gas. 7 red Republican states raised the gas tax last year. It's not a non-starter. It's when people make the case. If we would ever have had an opportunity for a week of hearings on Capitol Hill before the Ways and Means Committee, that we could have had that coalition appear to testify, governors, state legislators, business leaders, union leaders, environmental leaders. After a week, it would have been obvious. And there was more support on Capitol Hill, I will tell you, even with some of my Republican friends who were just feeling a little edgy. If the administration had come down, and if we'd been able to have regular order on Ways and Means, we would have raised the gas tax like Utah and South Dakota. In politics, you make your own reality. And we need to make our own reality. The notion that we can't raise the gas tax is a myth. The point is we shouldn't rely on it in perpetuity because it just makes things harder. And that was Paul Ryan's problem. I mean, he said it's not sustainable because of VMT. Paul, I've got legislation in your committee that will fix that. But no, that's my approach. I'm sorry. Sir.
Hi, my name is Gary Giovanetti. I'm a board member for San Joaquin Regional Transit in Stockton, California. We've been kicking this issue around for a couple of days. It would appear to me that the ultimate user fee would be toll roads. Out in California, and I would believe in other states, I know for sure in Texas, you have a little transponder on your car, and it seems to be a very manageable system. And how do you feel about toll roads?
Well, the transponder that you're describing, I think, is the answer. It's just that it's a transponder for any road that you use. And that's actually what I have on my car right now. I'm part of the 3rd variation for the pilot project in Oregon. Toll roads are limited because there are only a few roads that it works, and there are spillover effects. And if you just have it on certain toll roads where it economically makes sense, you've got some problems with the rest of the funding mechanisms. That's why I support that transponder, but for every mile that people travel, so that we can have that base of support. I see the senator is here, so I think I should be quiet. He's very entertaining and is a good guy, even if he's a Cleveland Indian fan. Thank you very much.